there are some super smart people on this planet, and they can talk about science from so many different angles, and they can talk about even sociology, they can talk about anthropology, they can talk about pretty much anything, but they still can't relate to people. And when it comes to actually interacting with other humans, they don't understand normal people. So when you're having a discussion with these people, they can tell you what they think all day long, and they can be absolutely brilliant. And when you see them outside of that, they still can't relate. Man to man, man to woman, man to child. And they just can't, they're just missing that component. They have all this computational power in their brains, but they cannot relate. This past week, Sam Harris got into a little bit of trouble. Super smart guy. He's one of those guys. Super smart guy. He can lecture anybody on anything. I watched him debate Jordan Peterson. Sam Harris is a very popular atheist. He may be now second only to Hitchens. I watched him debate Jordan Peterson on the topic of faith and God and morality and good and what is truth and all this stuff. They went back and forth for hours. And his position, simplified, because I'm not as smart as he is, simplified, his position was, we don't need God for morality. Never have. Religion is actually the reason why there is, or not the reason, but a major reason why immoral things happen. Wars, which lead to famine, poverty, etc. Again, simplified, his position was that man either inherently knows what's good and it just comes from within, or somehow society can implement and foster goodness and morality. Whereas Jordan Peterson would say, well, wait a minute, you're still acting as if there's a God, because that is the template.
You say you believe in God. You have been...
No, I say I act as if he exists.
You say what?
I say I act as if he exists,
okay,
which is a much more precise claim.
Okay, so then what, but in this case, what... So you act as though God exists.
Yep.
And in addition, I've heard you say that I act as though God exists, that I can't really be an atheist.
So far it seems that.
Right, yeah.
We'll see.
The night is young.
Yeah.
Whatever your complaint is, if you're an atheist, just understand the fact that we're able to coexist with other nations, we're coexisting with other people, that is because of God. Because without morals, without good, or the idea of good, or the idea of an ultimate good, people tend to be savage. And you can look upon, you can look all throughout history, and you can take out the quote-unquote religious wars. That does not account for the Adolf Hitlers of the world, right? The people who get rid of the Bible, who get rid of religion, who get rid of faith. Look at China right now. They get rid of those things so that people follow the government or follow a dictator instead. And then that allows for them to do things that they would not be able to do when the people are using the barometer of, well, this is not good, this is not moral, this is not right. That allows that dictator, that allows the government, in this instance, to to rewrite laws. There's no such thing as natural law because, well, we can't have that whole God thing. So I watched Sam Harris make this case about how man can navigate morality and good.
And that's been the problem with religion. If you denude it of everything that is unjustifiable in the light of 21st century science and rationality, I think what you have to get down to is something quite a bit more universal and less provincial than any specific religion, much less Christianity per se.
Well, it's interesting too, though, that one of the points that you do make is that you do appeal to or assume the existence of a transcendental internal ethic, something like that, which I would say, by the way, just since we're going down this direction, seems to me to be something very akin to the idea of the Holy Spirit, which is something like the internal representation of a transcendent universal ethic. Now remember, I'm trying to strip these concepts of their metaphysical substrate. I'm not making a case at the moment for the existence of the great man in the sky. We can get to that later. I'm saying that what seems to be the case is that we have underneath our cognitive architecture and our social architecture a layer of symbolic and dramatic and narrative representation that instantiates the same concepts, but in a multi-dimensional context. One of the things we talked about in Vancouver, for example, is that the religious enterprise doesn't only emphasize rationality. It brings music into the play, and it brings art into the play, and it brings drama, and it brings literature, and it brings architecture, and it brings the organizing of cities around a central space. Like it's pushing itself. It's manifesting itself across multiple dimensions of human existence simultaneously. And to me, that gives it a richness that cannot be diluted without loss, and also a motive power that a pure appeal to rationality, I don't think can manage. And
I never heard anybody, first of all, say that, and I never heard or never thought that anyone would believe that. Because even during most of my life where I was agnostic, I still believed. I just left the door open for God. Always have. And a lot of that it comes from coming up in Catholic school, and it was implanted in me in the very beginning. And I'm not so sure people are naturally good, and I'm not sure there are enough naturally good people without the foundation of a God and those ideas in the Ten Commandments. Those are very basic things. I'm not sure people are good without that, because I've met people who are just not. Even with the implanting of faith, and even with the implanting of, hey, these are rules that we have to have in order for society to move forward, and not be in total anarchy and forced hierarchy. I've seen people who had that and still will walk right up to anybody, punch them in the face, and take what they have and move on, because they can. Or worse, stab them or shoot them. I've known people who were fully capable of doing this and then going home and being a complete teddy bear. So the idea that you can just let these kinds of people roam without rules, and you can come up with better rules than what were established by religion, is, for me, yet to be seen. I haven't seen it. That doesn't mean people aren't, that doesn't mean secular societies aren't fully capable of thriving, but they're still using God. So Sam Harris had an interview, and it was a very interesting interview. And he said some things that went completely against his own positions on morality and goodness, and went completely toward tyranny and dictatorship behavior. talking about Hunter Biden and that he could have corpses of children in his basement and he wouldn't care.
At that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden. But even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in.
What you're saying doesn't make sense when you're saying, well, it's not the father, it's the son. I don't care what he does. Ask the CIA and FBI if family can be used to extort or coerce a leader. This isn't this isn't rocket science. This isn't neurosurgery. This is a neurology, period. This is very, very basic corruption 101. So then he moves over to what really clouds his judgment, and that's Donald Trump. And he says, the Trump University story, nothing that Hunter Biden could have done on his laptop, even though he doesn't know what's on the laptop, could be as bad as the Trump University story.
Right. Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop.
Think about the mindset you have to say that nothing that's on that laptop could match the Trump story, which was settled, I believe. Settled out of court, I believe. I could be wrong. But something that was actually settled and handled is still worse than anything somebody else could have done. Now, I'm not saying Hunter Biden murdered anyone. And I'm not saying there's pedophilia there, although there are some very, very, very young-looking prostitutes out there. I'm not making that claim. What I'm saying is to say something something with such finality and so sure is irresponsible for someone who's normally very careful with their words.
That becomes a real problem if you are going to dignify the foundational claims of these faiths, claims like revelation and paradise and blasphemy and apostasy. I mean, these are the things that you come up against, and I think conversations like this are incredibly important because we need to convince the better part of humanity that it's possible to live the best life possible without recourse to divisive nonsense. And where we draw the line between divisive nonsense and reasoned and necessary discourse is what we're dickering over, and I think it's important that we continue.
In this instance, Sam Harris, brilliant man, guy who talked about morality and people's ability to be good without faith and all this other stuff. He's willing to suspend this country's democracy so long as he agrees with the outcome.
Now that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely it was. Absolutely. Right? But I think it was warranted.
I need you to think about that. He's willing, and not only willing, but he would contribute and celebrate ending our democracy or suspending our democracy so that he could get the results that he wants in an election.
I'm really sorry. I was the one that said we should move on, but you've just
Okay.
said something I really struggle
Go for
with
it.
there, which is
The
you
kid-
support...
the kids in the basement?
No, fuck the kids in the basement. I'm interested in democracy. You're saying you are content with a left-wing conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left-wing, right? So Liz Cheney is not left-wing, right? Liz Cheney is doing everything in her power.
You're content with a conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically
it's not
elected.
but there's nothing conspiracy. It's not. It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part's conspiracy, what part's out in the open. I mean, I think it's like if people get together and talk about what should we do about this phenomenon. You know, if it's like if there was an asteroid hurtling toward Earth, and we got in a room together with all of our friends and had a conversation about what we could do to deflect its course, right? Is that a conspiracy?
Society as a whole and what keeps us functional and not corrupt is not as important as getting this guy out or not allowing this guy back in who tweets. I need you to wrap your mind around what this man was saying. He's saying, I'm good with dictatorship. I'm good with corruption. I'm good with lying. I'm good with cheating. I'm good with stealing. And not only that, it's what happened. But he's good with it. Again, think about what I'm saying. So as long as it's somebody that we don't like, all bets are off. We can do anything we want to them. But if it's someone we do like, we can cry foul, and then let's start following laws. Now we can implement the rule of law. How is that different from a dictator or dictatorship? What's the difference? See, if one person gets to choose when the rule of law works and when it doesn't, that means we have no rule of law. Understand that. It's not something that can just be revoked and then reinstalled and then revoked and reinstalled based on how we feel. That's crazy. That's evil. That's outside of the realm of good and bad, the ability to be moral. That's the opposite. There's nothing moral about that. So the person who's making the morality argument and speaking about not needing God needs God because he doesn't understand how evil the words he was saying were. And he should understand, and I believe he does understand because he's a brilliant person, the implications of what he was saying. So if you put me in charge, I'll kill, I'll do whatever needs to be done for the greater good. And he literally said it doesn't matter that there was a conspiracy. Because my belief is all that matters. Your belief, if you like this guy, doesn't matter at all. As a matter of fact, it's invalid because I say so. How far are we at that point from just rounding up those dissenters and pushing them to the side? Let's get rid of them. I'm okay with killing or finding dead bodies. I'm okay with conspiracy. I'm okay with suspending the law. I'm okay with using any means so long as I agree with it. That's crazy. And I respected his view. Whether or not I agreed with it didn't matter. But I'm honest enough to say I respected Sam Harris's view, even from an atheist standpoint, because that's his opinion. We're allowed that. What I will never be for is imposition. I have zero respect for that man, because he said, essentially, I don't respect anyone else's view in this instance because they're wrong. And I will lie, cheat, and steal, and do whatever it takes to force my thought that you're wrong onto you. Any means necessary. How can anyone respect that? Because now it's not an opinion. It's no longer an opinion when you're willing to force that opinion onto other people. It's now imposition. I'm okay with that, so long as we get what I want. How is that different from a dictator? Now, I know he's not implementing it, but when he spoke on the conspiracy, he fully acknowledged there was a conspiracy to get rid of Trump. He fully acknowledged the social media aspect of it and getting him out of there, getting him out of the way. But it's justified because he agreed with it. So if somebody went to his house today, grabbed his wife, took her out of the house, locked her up, forced him to do whatever they wanted him to do, that's okay because they're okay with it. You see how this can't stop? This is more than slippery slope stuff. Because who's the authority that we're listening to here? Because what happened to the person who was in authority, democratically elected. So who are the people who get to decide these things, when to suspend everything we know to achieve an end result that who is satisfied with? Who is who? Who is that person? Who is it? Is it people Sam Harris likes and knows and agrees with? What happens if they have a disagreement? This is far beyond slippery slope, people. He said out loud what happened. He admitted that it was lying and cheating and stealing, but he said, it's okay. I'm good with that. I almost just cursed. I don't care if you're good with that. It's not up to you. You are not greater than the system. The system protects everyone, not you and your thoughts. As smart as you are a complete moron when it comes to politics. And you proved it. And someone like that, with that mindset, is very, very dangerous. Because he wouldn't just be the person rounding people up. He would be the one explaining to the person how to do it effectively. It's evil. There's no other way to look at that. And to make the point, he talked about how little he would even regard baby or child carcasses. Like, he can suspend all morality. All morality to achieve his goals. Next time you hear Sam Harris talk and lecture and speak on anything, especially God, I need you to remember this conversation that he was having with these two gentlemen who aren't even, one of them's not even American. The guy who was shocked to hear him saying something so stupid and evil was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, you just said something. And he joked about the other evil thing he said, not realizing that that still was not the worst of what he said. That's a problem, people. That's not opinions at that point. When you're forcing your opinions onto someone else, it's imposition. It is no longer, hey, I can speak my opinion. That's just what I thought. No, it's not. That's a threat. Now, do you hold him accountable for that threat? No. But that's something that should alert people to never put him in charge of anything. Because he will do anything to achieve, he will use any means to achieve his goal, his end goal. All I can say is remember that. Because he fully exposed who he is. And the interesting thing is he tried to clarify, because he said I wasn't speaking clear enough. No, you were speaking very clear. You never speak without being very precise and clear with your language. I watched you pick apart very simple words. You're very clear. You were very clear. And honestly, your little tweet chain, 6 or 8 tweets, whatever it was, it didn't help.